On her way home from work, a woman was terrified to find that with just a single blink, a towering creature had appeared on the once quiet street. In her panic, she scrambled back to her car. Yet, at the worst possible moment, disaster struck. Her car keys had fallen to the ground during her frantic escape. The woman now sensed the danger closing in rapidly. It seemed she wouldn't live to see another day. This demon actually originated from a scientific laboratory. Kessie, the female lead, worked under Dr. Peter on a secret collaborative research project. Several other elite team members were also involved. Their research subject was precisely the act of blinking. Blinking is a very ordinary action for both humans and animals. Beyond protecting and lubricating the eyes, it plays a crucial role in our perception of time and reality. Studies show humans blink about 10 times per minute on average. Each blink lasts roughly 0.3 seconds, totaling 3 minutes of darkness every hour, adding up to 48 minutes in a 12-hour day. Blinking is spontaneous, entirely beyond conscious control, as essential as a heartbeat. Peter then addressed the crucial point. Recent research suggested that one day in the future, humans might connect to another dimension during the instant of a blink. They had conducted numerous human experiments for this purpose, using specialized equipment to extract data directly from subjects' brains. After the meeting ended, the team began preparations for their test subjects. Just then, Paolo, Kessie's brother, arrived. Filled with curiosity about the blink research, he was determined to join Kessie's team, even volunteering as a test subject, and succeeded in entering the institute. Soon after, Kessie had to rush back to the lab for an urgent task. Before leaving, she hugged Paolo. Suddenly, an image flashed through Paolo's mind, leaving him deeply confused. Kessie hurried to the laboratory. Her colleague Edward handed her a test report. The brain data on the report appeared completely normal. Kessie, however, found this very strange. The report belonged to Kessie's boyfriend, Frank. Frank had once been part of the team too, but one day, he suffered a sudden accident, becoming a patient unable to care for himself. Kessie observed Frank's condition was extremely poor. Not only could he not eat, but he also constantly drooled, though all his other bodily functions seemed intact. The research team had been unable to diagnose Frank's illness, but Kessie refused to give up, tirelessly searching for a cure every day. Kessie visited Frank whenever she could, standing by his doorway. Frank spent his days drawing strange doodles on paper. That night, Edward saw one test subject suddenly perform bizarre movements on the security feed. When nurses rushed to check, they found the subject had gouged out his own eyes. Simultaneously, Frank's eyes turned white, and a look of terror spread across his face. The next day, Stacy and Edward ran another brain scan on Frank. This time, the data became chaotic. Frank's body then began convulsing violently for several seconds before finally going still. Just as Stacy leaned in to examine his eyes, something truly bizarre happened. Trista arrived and wheeled Frank back to his room. Stacy picked up Frank's drawings. She was surprised to find one drawing differed from the others. It seemed to depict a monster with long limbs. Later, they gathered in the office to discuss Frank's case. They remained baffled about what had truly happened to him. Blood tests showed everything was normal. There were no signs of trauma or brain injury, yet Frank resembled someone with cerebral palsy. They were utterly perplexed. Soon after, Paolo visited Kessie's office. Kessie showed Paolo the high-tech helmet they had developed. It could track pathways to other dimensions, visualizing what humans cannot see during a blink. Paolo eagerly wanted to try the helmet, but Kessie stopped him. The timing wasn't right yet. There were too many uncontrollable factors. Paolo left the office dejected. Outside, he accidentally bumped into a nurse. Suddenly, another image flashed through his mind. Meanwhile, Edward urgently summoned Kessie back to the lab. He had discovered Frank's cerebral cortex data was identical to that of the subject who had gouged out his eyes. This meant both individuals had experienced the same event. Kessie immediately reviewed Frank's security footage. The monster was clearly lurking in Frank's room at that time.
Keep going. Stop.
What the hell is that?
At the same moment, Julie, the nurse Paolo had bumped into, was finishing her shift. What happened next was the scene described at the beginning. Simultaneously, Frank's brain waves spiked abnormally again. Instruments showed his brain activity was hyperactive, exceeding neurological load. The next morning, nearby residents called the police because Julie's car horn was blaring incessantly. When officers arrived, the car was empty. The steering wheel was covered in blood. Before Julie's death, Paolo had texted Kessie. He described the vision he saw when touching Julie. Kessie finally realized Paolo possessed precognitive abilities. When Kessie returned to the lab, Edward told her about Frank's incident overnight. They also witnessed paranormal phenomena on the security feed. Furthermore, whenever these paranormal phenomena occurred, Frank's body would convulse. More terrifyingly, Frank's episodes happened at the exact same time Julie was murdered. Kessie suspected a definite connection between the two events. Soon after, Stacy was testing another subject, Leon. When Leon removed his goggles, Stacy saw blood-red marks around his eyes. To prevent involuntary blinking, Leon had glued his eyes open with strong adhesive. He claimed he saw the monster whenever he closed or blinked his eyes. He then deliberately tried to scare Stacy. Edward, observing from outside, thought Leon was joking. Stacy thought the same. Leon soon put on the helmet to begin the experiment. The helmet could map his brain activity and record what happened during blinks. Shortly after the experiment started, Leon blinked twice involuntarily. Horrified, Leon ripped off the helmet, grabbed a nearby knife, and cut off his own eyelids. Stacy and Edward watched in stunned disbelief. Kessie then checked Leon's visual cortex data, finding he had experienced extreme stimulation. At the precise moment of Leon's self-mutilation, Frank convulsed again. The events happened simultaneously. Clearly, everything was linked to Frank through some unknown relationship. They began to suspect a massive secret hidden behind this research. Kessie turned her suspicion towards their leader, Peter. She found an excuse to send Peter away and then secretly infiltrated his office. Unexpectedly, she saw Peter deleting secret files on his computer, which displayed the information of various test subjects. Clearly, Peter was hiding an unspeakable secret. Kessie continued searching for clues in the office. Meanwhile, Stacy, following instructions, went to the conference hall and suddenly heard someone calling her name. The eerie atmosphere sent chills down Stacy's spine. At the same time, Kessie discovered several discs marked with names in a drawer. She immediately checked Frank's disc and finally learned that Frank's condition was caused by Peter. It turned out that Frank and Peter had a disagreement due to differing opinions. Frank wanted to use a conservative approach for the experiments, but Peter disagreed. He wanted to use human subjects directly. They had a huge argument over this. In the end, Peter injected an experimental sample directly into Frank's neck. To accelerate the experiment's progress, Peter was willing to sacrifice his own partner, resulting in Frank's current state. After learning the truth, Kessie was stunned. She couldn't believe that Peter, whom she had respected all along, was such a malicious villain. Just then, Peter returned to the office and discovered Kessie knew his secret. Kessie begged him to stop the experiment, but Peter seemed to have no such intention. In a fit of anger, Kessie decided to report Peter. Peter, however, didn't seem to care. Meanwhile, Edward, with nothing to do, was playing a game when the power suddenly failed. He put down his phone and went to check the voltage nearby. Just then, a voice suddenly came from his phone.
"Blink for me, Eddie."
Finally, Edward had his eyes gouged out by the creature. Meanwhile, Peter entered Frank's hospital room. To destroy all evidence, he decided to poison Frank. A voice began echoing incessantly in Frank's ear. The next second, he blinked, and his eyes instantly turned white. The creature completely took over Frank's body. Peter met a gruesome end at the hands of the creature. Immediately after, the creature set its sights on Trista, who soon became a cold corpse. By the time Kessie and the others arrived, it was too late. Only 3 members of the secret project team remained. To prevent the creature from harming more of them, Kessie decided to put on the helmet and enter the other dimension. She wanted to capture the creature herself and bring Frank back to the human world. Paulo volunteered to join her, feeling that as a man, he must protect his sister. Everett warned them under no circumstances to blink. Frank was currently at the boundary between the human world and the other dimension. Under Everett's direction, Kessie and Paulo put on the helmets and connected to the other dimension. But soon, the signal grew weaker, seemingly jammed by some electronic interference. Finally, Everett completely lost contact with Kessie. An alarm sounded in the lab. Everett checked the security feed and saw the creature attacking everyone in the research institute. As the countdown ended, the entire institute was completely sealed off. The creature and the survivors were trapped inside. Everett suddenly blinked. Instantly, the creature appeared in the laboratory. Realizing that blinking had drawn the creature, Everett grabbed a stapler and stapled his own eyelids open. But it was all too late. The creature was already standing behind him. Then the creature crushed Everett's head in its hands. Meanwhile, the oblivious Kessie and Paolo were still wandering in the other dimension. An extremely piercing sound filled their ears. Unable to bear it, Kessie was the first to remove her helmet. Then, both of them lost their connection to the other dimension. Paolo saw the creature was about to find them. He decided to sacrifice himself, actively drawing the creature away to buy time for Kessie. To defeat the creature, they had to find Frank within the other dimension. Kessie re-established the connection. As she passed a stairwell corner, she saw the creature ruthlessly biting Paolo's corpse. Too terrified to make a sound, Kessie grabbed an axe and searched the basement for Frank. When she ran into a derelict room, she saw a figure sitting on a chair in the distance calling Kessie's name. Kessie approached cautiously, axe in hand, and finally saw it was Frank, the one she had been desperately searching for. Frank's eyes were covered. He warned Kessie the creature could return any moment and urged her to escape. But Kessie was determined to bring Frank back with her. Frank didn't want to burden Kessie and even asked her to kill him directly.
You don't understand. It's in me. You have to kill me.
The creature had long been inhabiting Frank's body. To destroy the creature, Frank had to die. It was the only way. Kessie, however, couldn't bring herself to do it. She removed the covering from Frank's eyes. The moment Frank opened his eyes, the creature instantly appeared beside them. Kessie immediately swung the axe to fight the creature. However, the creature could teleport. Kessie couldn't hit it, and the axe struck her own abdomen, ripping open a large gash. The creature then grabbed Kessie by the throat and lifted her high. Seeing Kessie in mortal danger, Frank decided to end his own life to save her. As Frank plunged the knife into his own heart, the creature instantly released its grip and began vomiting blood. As Frank died, the creature collapsed to the ground. In the end, Kessie successfully returned to the real world. This concludes the entire plot of the 2025 American horror movie, Never Blink. The movie's concept is quite novel, but the pacing felt slow. That's all for today's share. Thank you for watching. See you next time.